All righty. Okay. Our speaker today is Locke Alderson. He's going to be speaking about how to use LinkedIn for the job search, for job hunting, strategies that will help get results. Locke's been a career consultant and recruiting consultant, a contract recruiter. He's going to tell you more about him right now. And Locke, I'll let you introduce yourself, and thanks for being with us today.
My name's Locke Alderson. If I can work out the technology here, I'll start the slideshow. Come on. We'll get that. You can see my bio there on the screen. I spent 41 years in industry and recruiting and human resources at a number of different companies like Continental Airlines, Litton Data Systems, Rockwell. In California, here in Dallas, I spent time with E-Systems, which merged into Raytheon. I then went to Siebel, which was a spin-out from Oracle, and then joined Oracle when they acquired Siebel, and left Oracle at the end of June of 2010, and took some early retirement and got back into full-time work with Mullen International. They're an outplacement firm out of New York. They were acquired by Lee Heck Harrison, and I left Lee Heck Harrison at the end in December of this year. I'm continuing to work as a speaker at workshops and seminars like this one. That's my bio. If you should want the presentation today, just click on lockealderson@gmail.com. Send me a note that you'd like the presentation from today, and I'll be happy to send you the entire slide deck. If you're not on LinkedIn, you can sign up for the YouTube, and it will show you how to do YouTube and fill in your profile. It all starts with your profile, this is a copy of my profile. It's been updated. You'll notice a number of things about it. There's a headshot and a background shot. There's some information that you see there on the slide. My name, my headline, which is beneath my name, which is 120 characters that you get to play with. And we'll go through how you update and change those. The open to job opportunities is next. And that's something, once you've set that up in your settings section, you can list up to 5 different opportunities, job opportunities that you're open to, and more details. And you can open up to either recruiters or to all of LinkedIn as one of the options, and also the locations that are involved with that. Okay. With your picture, it's a good idea to have a professional looking picture. Dressed like you would for an interview is a good way to save. And if you're going to do a selfie, make sure that the angle is straight on that. Selfies are okay. In terms of backgrounds, you want to have a good clear background so that it doesn't provide distractions for that. In terms of your name, what do you like to be called by? And that's important because you want to make it easier for the person that's looking at your screen to be able to know who you talk about. The headline, as I said, have 120 characters. Generally, you want to have the job titles of the positions that you're looking for. If you don't put anything there, it will default to your last permanent position. And you also want to have the information that's there. You notice there's a contact information on the screen there. And you want to have in your contact information at least your email address and your phone number and your LinkedIn URL. Okay. How do you increase your ranking in LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn is set up so that when people do searches, it has an algorithm that gives various points and factors to each section of your resume. You want to complete your profile, which is basically a resume on LinkedIn, so that you have all-star status. You want a professional headshot, as I mentioned. The headline is the job title that you're applying for, or job titles. You can have multiple. As I said, there are 120 characters that you get to play with. The job opportunities, which appears below, that's over in your settings sections. And once you've set that up and you've opened it up, it will ask you for 4 or 5 different job titles that you're interested in, as well as locations and driving distance or commuting time. The About section, which was formerly the summary, is basically just what it sounds like. It's an overview of your career using keywords from your profession and job. You do want to have your contact information in the first 2 lines of the About section. It's very vital because the fewer clicks that somebody has to make to get in touch with you, the more likely they are to do that. If it's at the bottom of your About section, a lot of people don't click the See More and scroll down to the bottom of your About section or your summary. The Experience section usually has your job title. If it's an unusual title, you want to give the standard title or the title that's used in industry in parentheses and a description of your duties, and you want to include some keywords from that job that you might have that match job postings. The title that you have, you can also amplify on something like that. So if you're an accountant, you might have put in parentheses or a dash that you're a CPA or general ledger accounting or do financial statements, some other information so that you can amplify what's in your title. But you don't want to exaggerate because there's too much information about you on the internet. People will catch you in an exaggeration. Sometimes they call it lying. Education, awards, certificates, and professional development. Most of the time when I look at LinkedIn profiles, it talks about somebody's education, maybe some awards and certification. What it often fails to talk about is the professional development. Professional development, any classes that you may have had since you got a degree, anything to update your skills and profession, these should be included on that. Another area is the skills from your profession. As you start to fill in your profile, it will give you some idea of what things that it might select for you. And you want to add others, and you can click on that, and we'll show you how to do that. In endorsements, people can just click on that skill and add it to your endorsements. You want to get as many of those as you can. They're limited to about 99 that will actually show up on that. Recommendations, you can get those as well. And you want to try and do that. Basically, those are letters of reference so that they appear on your profile and recruiters or hiring managers can see what others say about you without having to check into too much information. Okay, you have on in the next section of your profile, you have the features and your LinkedIn dashboard. You see the dashboard, I just updated mine this morning. You notice there that there's who's viewed your profile, the post views, and these are the activities that you had, and the search appearances. Who's viewed your profile, if you click on that, it'll give you a bar chart who's looked at your profile in the last 90 days. The posting views is who's looked at the post, the articles that you may have written, the presentation that you've included, and the search appearances, how many times have you appeared in a search appearance in the last 30 days. There's also something down there called Salary Insights. This is something new, which will compare your salary, the one that's in your headline, to how does that pay in industry. It's not the most accurate salary survey, but it does give you some idea what's being paid in that. Okay, also in the features section, you can include things that you've done, videos. These are the presentations that I have, LinkedIn presentation. This one, job hunting with LinkedIn. That's an old version, about a year ago. I need to update that as well. You also have, when you look at that, when you click on the search appearances, these are the keywords that somebody might have used: recruiter, junior recruiter, corporate recruiter, that those recruiters have used to try and find people. It also has that you can look at the companies where those people work. And while it may not be that they have a current job opening, many times they do, but other times they may have openings, they have people with your kind of background working at that company. And those companies can be added to your target list of companies. Here's some sample headlines. Let's take a look at a few of those. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. What do you think of these two? Unemployed and retired. I would say they're not as strong as they could be and have negative connotations. Seeking new employment or new opportunity is a good one. It's a little stronger. Formerly VP of Finance is okay, except for the word formerly. It's a slightly negative connotation. Here's a more experienced one. An experienced media professional seeking a new opportunity gives more information to your reader. Even more information is provided in this one. A social media strategist and content manager. Okay, somebody who has print and digital media, has done PR, marketing, communications. Here's one, call it with somebody that works in the supply chain logistics area and purchasing. And you notice a pipe character there. And we'll tell you how to include that as well. It kind of separates things. You can also use a comma after, say, supply chain, and a space, and then procurement. You don't want to run things together because if you do that, there are not searchable terms in the algorithm. Here's another one, senior accountant, GL. For most recruiters, they understand what GL is, general ledger and financial reporting. You could have accountant, you could have cost accounting, some other areas of accounting that somebody might have worked with. An executive assistant may have also handled the budgeting and event planning for the company. IT project manager with IDLE, which is a certification process, and Scrum Master, also terms that are hot when recruiters are looking for somebody with that kind of background. Oh, let me back up just a minute. Okay, general manager in manufacturing and aerospace gives an idea of what that individual does. Here's a sample summary. Notice at the top of the summary is an email address. This makes it easy for the person to get hold of you. Again, this one is a little bit long, but I think it's pretty precise. Generally, when you're talking about your summary, you want to have it to be 4 or 5 lines and then a break. So you have something that makes it easier to read. This person has also used bold to make it a little bit easier to understand and highlight certain things. They've also come down and included specialties at the bottom of theirs. Here's some other sample headlines or sample summaries. You can use first person, make it a little bit more personal. Generally speaking, that's not acceptable when you're talking about a resume, but you can see some of the things that have been included with that, how they're written and what they tend to look like. Okay. Terry Sullivan, when he does his presentation, suggests that you have it into 5 paragraphs. The first one is basically your 30-second commercial. And the second, third, and fourth are your areas of expertise, bullets with 4 or 5 lines and possibly broken up with some bullets. And the last one, the last paragraph or fifth, is a call to action. You want somebody to get in touch with you, let's connect so we can talk about my background and your requirements. The skills and endorsement section that I mentioned. Here's one that's there. It's going to suggest something for you. You can have up to 50, and you can organize them the way you want. LinkedIn will automatically display 3 of the skills, and it selects them at pretty much at random or how they appear in your profile. Again, but you can select the 3 that you want, and you can rearrange them in the order that you want. Notice what's there. Continuing on skills and endorsement, this is the actual what they look like. Mine show up as career counseling, executive search, and recruiting. And there's also, I'm endorsed by a number of people that have worked at different companies like Mullen & Associates and Lee Heck Harrison. How about your public profile? Is your profile really public? Well, ways that you can find out is to go to your area up the top, the Me section right up here. Click on the area that says Settings and Privacy. And when you click that open, you can edit those. Your settings and privacy, the ones that you want to edit, or your privacy area and the job seeking preferences. Okay, you do that by clicking on the Edit Public Profile and URL up there at the top. And when you've done that, let me go back to previous. It says edit your URL and customize it. What do you want to do? Well, URL, when you look at that, it's going to come up with your name and run together and 6 to 8 characters and numbers and letters after that. But you can customize it like this one. This is a sample from Gail Houston. That's what it actually looks like. And she's taken out the numbers after her name. But you can include a dash between your first and last name and another dash and add something like CPA or project manager. And it's easy to remember. You can also include this here. You can just copy the whole thing and include it in your online resume. And when you include it on your online resume, it automatically becomes a hot link. When somebody clicks on it, it will take you, that reader, to your profile. Once you've come up with what you want, you enter the Save button. If it's an acceptable one, it'll check the green box, or the green arrow, the green check mark, or the red X. If it's already a used name, you may have to change it and put like Locke Alderson 1. Actually, there are only 2 Locke Aldersons in the United States, my son and I. And he happens to go by his full name, which is John Locke Alderson. Okay. Again, who can see your email address? This is part of the privacy settings. You want to set that, and you want to be able to people to see who you are. And who can see your connections? While you're in job search mode, you may want to hide your connections because you're up here in a window beside your name. When it comes up when they've done the search, those are people with a similar type background. Those are a source of candidates for recruiters. They can build a recruiting list from that. And also, we mentioned about job seeking preferences. This is what that is. You can click on that one right there, and you can select up to 5 different job titles. And you can use the pipe character, which is an uppercase character. It's a shift character on the 3rd row of your keyboard, just above the enter on my keyboard right now. Okay, and that's to separate things that are there. But when people look, or recruiters or hiring managers look at your resume, they usually, on your profile, they usually take a look for 6 to 10 seconds, like they do on resumes. You notice on mine, I've got a background picture, my profile shot or headshot. I've got my career consultant with a pipe character. Notice that there's a space on either side of the pipe character. If you put a pipe character with no spaces on either side is not searchable. Another way to do that is put a comma after the, say, search consultant, then a space and a recruiting consultant. Here are the job opportunities and the details, and it's open to all LinkedIn members, as you see there. The other things that you want to have your preferences, and your contact information in the first couple of lines in your summary, as I mentioned. Your education and professional development. You want to have some of the industries in there. If you list your companies in your employment section, if it's not a well-known company, put a one-line identifier for what the company does. I know when I was with Mostech Corporation, at that time in the late 70s and early 80s, they were the world's leading producer of random access memories. They went out of business in '83. If you're currently not working, you want to add a current position. This one just is for someone that's a project manager in the telecommunications industry. They've been out of work for a long time. I need to update the slide possibly. And again, where they are, what they're doing, that they're looking for an opportunity in project management in the telecommunications industry. Okay. Having a current position like this is one of the factors that LinkedIn looks at when they do the evaluation in terms of running the algorithm. You can also create job alerts. Once you've added your job preferences and jobs, you can click that and you can turn it on for that type of job title. There's an on and off button that you see right there. It will automatically notify you once a week or once a day, depending upon the setting that you've selected. And just gives a thumbnail sketch. It doesn't give the whole description, but you can click on the description and it will take you to the whole description of the job. So how does LinkedIn work when a recruiter does a search? There are certain things to look for. As I mentioned, every LinkedIn profile gets a score based on their profile and how they use LinkedIn. High scores move to the top of the recruiter's list. That's one of the factors. So some of the things, having a complete profile is one of the things that's involved. An exact match of the current job title, previous job titles, and the job titles in the headline versus what the recruiters entered in their search terms. That they're open to new opportunities. Recruiters like low-hanging fruit. People that are open to new opportunities as opposed to people who hang up and say no, that they're not interested. I know when I started in recruiting and took some training on my own, I was working at my own recruiting firm and was told that it's going to take about 5,000 telephone calls to get 20 hires. That means basically that at least 4,000 of those, when you make the call, are going to say no. So no is something that I had to get used to. Are you a first or second degree connection to them? It also increases your searchability. And having a high number of connections generally over 500 is the threshold that they look at. And what are your skills? Takes a look on skills because that's how recruiters search. And what is your location? Because generally recruiters are going to want candidates that are within 25 miles of their job location because they're more acceptable to changing jobs. Some people and some jobs are nationwide and can be worked for virtual as well. And also your comments on posts and articles or if you've written. So what do recruiters actually search for as opposed to what happens in recruiter searches? They're looking at job titles again, or job titles. Job title or titles for your present and past positions. What are your skills? What are your industries? What's your education? And your prior companies and length of service. And once they've narrowed it down, they may look at your summary and employment history in more detail. So what does a recruiter search look like? This is one for a candidate that was in Seattle area. They would also take a candidate who was in the San Francisco Bay Area. They were looking for a product manager, a senior product manager. The skill set that they were looking for was product marketing or product management. And they were also looking for education. And this one, the education was the University of Washington. You notice that there were about 6,900 candidates for this job. This is another search. This one drew about 43,000 responses for a project manager in the Chicago area, but would also take somebody in Seattle or the San Francisco area. The keywords that they used were business strategy and analytics, and they were also looking for somebody, first preference would have been Northwestern University. How do you go about searching for a job? Well, when you click on the Jobs tab up here at the top, you can have two boxes that are entered there. There's a search jobs and a search jobs. You enter the job title that you're looking for here. And if you just click return or search at that point, it will default to nationwide up here in the search location. So you generally want to add a location for that and click it. The next thing that you do once you click that, will come up with a search. the filters that you can use on a job. So I do recommend that you change the anytime to past week because most jobs are filled pretty quickly. The first result to a LinkedIn to a posting on the internet is generally about 3 minutes, and that could be as many as 300 or 400 in the first hour. So you want to get in early on the process. You can also look for the kinds of job. Most of the positions are going to be full-time positions, but you notice that there's several other options. On my profile, you notice that mine were part-time, contract, and I think that was the other one that I had on mine, okay? You can add locations as well, and over there you can actually search by companies. If you want to look at just the jobs for a recruiter at Thomson Reuters, at the point when this search was done, there were 2 of them. Our Gartner Group was looking for 6, and Korn Ferry's Future Step, which is a recruiting firm, was looking for a couple. The experience level is important. That's the next one over here. That's a good way to find out what the salary level on positions are. Internships are generally somebody who's in school, like someone on an H-1B visa or an MBA candidate, say SMU. I had a friend who was at SMU. She did an internship in Chicago with Allstate and went to work for them this past year. Entry-level positions, just what they sound like, don't require a lot of education. And generally people who have finished a degree are just coming into the workforce. An associate is anywhere from 1 to 5 years experience. Mid-senior is like 4 to 15 years experience. Then you get into the managerial ranks. This is a good way to estimate what the kind of salary is because generally salary surveys are not available to you for that, although you can go online and do things like Salary Wizard to find out where your salary looks like. You can create job alerts, okay? When you've done a job search, a job alert on or off for this kind of position. This was again, for a talent acquisition specialist, and it happened to be worldwide. The job description is over here, and you can actually sort through the job and see what some of the requirements are for the position. The next one is why would you want to take a look at people in LinkedIn? Well, one of the things that you do when you go to the people search is actually to look for your profile. For me, if I did a search for recruiter, it used to be I would come up on the first couple of pages on recruiter, which is basically there are 10 thumbnail sketches on each page. And recruiters usually look at anywhere from 5 to 10 different pages. So they're looking at anywhere from 50 to 100 thumbnail sketches of candidates. Not all of those 26,000 people would be actively looking for a job, but they did have the word recruiter in their profile. So recruiters are going to look at that. So you want to look at that, and you can look and see who they are. You can take a look at some of the things that they do and what they're looking for, okay? And if you don't show up in the first 10 pages or 10 screens, you can look at some of the verbiage in there and possibly adopt some of that for yours if it applies into your profile and see if it will increase your profile ranking. But you can also search for people, do a people search at a company. You notice this one was for companies and was searching for people at Thomson Reuters. And as it turned out, there were 227,000 people who had worked at Thomson Reuters. One of the filters that you could use is active or current employees or past employees or both. Okay. You can also look and do a company search as opposed to a people search and do the same kind of thing. Notice I started to enter Thomson Ray. Well, LinkedIn has some artificial intelligence with it. Thomson Reuters was the second company on the list. If I click that, this is kind of what the results are. You notice that there were 106, 102 employees. By looking at people, you can look at people that you can see where they live, where they studied, what they do, and where they said. What they do is generally the department that they work in. This is what kind of field that they got their education in and where they went to school. Okay. The other thing that you could do with LinkedIn, and this was from a friend of mine called Dork Spencer. All he did when he was looking for a job when he left his last position was to change his title in title section. He changed it from technical recruiter, IT and leadership to immediate availability to the same kind of thing with pipes, okay, or backslashes is the same thing, and corporate or contract. He changed the summary section to IT recruiter. He's available in W-2 or contract. Within a week, he had probably been contacted by 6 different companies. He's currently working on a situation with Baylor Scott and White. Jeff, why don't we open it up to questions at this point? I'll see if I could get back my screen and close out that, and we can do some actual
All right, well, if you have a question, please either enter it in the comment box if you're on Facebook, or in the Zoom box. You're welcome to enter it in Zoom, and we can take a look at your profile. If you'd like us to, if you're okay with showing your profile, just enter your name into the chat box, and we will pop your profile up. Or if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get your question. Questions, comments? Would you like us to look at your profile? Yes, Joe, please, go ahead. Let me unmute you. Okay, Joe, you can talk. Oop. Well.
Have you got my screen up, Jeff, for LinkedIn?
No, your screen is not up right now.
Okay. Got to come back and do that. So.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
My question is, my LinkedIn profile is currently not quite all-star, and I guess it might be a recommendation or offline or something. Maybe you could look at my profile. I can give you the URL. I just want to get to an all-star level, so I'm
going to have to do it a different way. I can't look at it, but I will look at it and give you the comments as we go along, George. I tried to work out the technical details with Jeff yesterday, and this is one that I haven't figured out yet. So I had it open, we couldn't do that. But give me your name.
Yes, sir. It's Joe, and last name is Amadeo. I can spell that. So
I got it.
Okay, you got it?
I'm doing a search for it. We are first degree connected. But as I look at your profile, okay, you got your name and a headshot. Again, you're open to job opportunities as a web content manager. You've got pipe character there with SEO and technical writer, knowledge manager, and editor. Okay, if I look at your contact information, you've got good contact information for there. Let's scroll down a little bit and see what you've got there on that. It's not in your about section. I would add it.
Add my contact to about.
Have it in both areas. The more places it is, the easier it is for the recruiter to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Locke, I've got his profile up on the screen here, so I'm showing it to everybody else.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. We're working through the technical.
That's okay.
Good content in terms of your about section. Again, it's a good idea to break up the content in your about section so there's no more than 4 or 5 lines together. It's easier to read and to follow. Okay. Looking at you've got some articles included in your feature section. Your resume is included there, which is one of the things that you can do. And you said a KM request. I don't know what that is, but apparently that's something in your field. It's important. Okay.
Right.
And then search engine optimization consultant, which is good for dealer socket. Good, you've used bullets there. Again, when you're in your employment section or your experience section, you want to bring out some highlights there. It's good to have some narrative about the company and what your duties and responsibilities are, and then break out what some of the accomplishments were. Okay. Again, if I look at inbound marketing reports, yes, that's something that you did. What was the result of that? What was the significance or important of that?
Okay.
Monthly Google Analytics analysis and consultation calls. Yes, that's important, but what happened with it? Okay. As a web content publisher at Blue Cross Blue Shield, you've got several examples of what you've done there, which is good. Content manager for SRS distributing. Again, you've got kind of your portfolio shown there. So you've got a pretty good profile setting on that. Okay, let's try someone else, Jeff, unless Joe has some questions.
No, I'm good. Appreciate it. And I'll implement a few tweaks. And
okay, well, you've got a good solid foundation to start with.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Let's see here. Let me get the chat box up so I can see it again.
Yeah, I put mine in. This is Michael Gelgor, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Spell the last name, Michael.
Gelgor.
Gelgor.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and you're VP of Operations at Pharmacy?
Yes.
Okay. We're second degree connections. I'm going to go ahead on his. He's got an accept button. I'm going to go ahead. Normally when you click the accept button, okay? Because you've sent me an invitation. And go back and look at your profile again. We got an unusual picture of a bird in the background. That's fine. Again, in terms of contact information, if I open up your contact information, you have your email, but you don't have your contact because we're second degree connection because our connection has not been processed. It's a little difficult to get in touch with you. So let's see if you've got it in your about section. Again, put it in the top 2 lines of your about section.
Okay.
You've got a pipe character after returns. You want to put a space in there so it's searchable. You've got socks and drug launch. You've got some things that are very, very topical today. So there's some things that will probably be searchable kinds of things. Okay. Okay. You got some good activities area. The kinds of things that he's recommended or checked on. Those are some things that, again, LinkedIn gives you credit for some of those. Your experience as AST Healthcare. Again, I might add to that you can. What do they do? What is AST Healthcare? Healthcare is a hot field these days. Again, I would break up your paragraph under that, add a line or a page break in there between the bulleted items and the narrative somewhere. It makes it easier to read. Again, you're trying to make it easy for the reader, not for your benefit. Okay. You've got Director of Accounting. Again, not much in the way of detail there. You've got your postgraduate studies at UTD and worked overseas and had a degree from Winterstrad. That sounds like an overseas university?
Yeah, it's South Africa. That's where I was grew up, and that's where I went to college.
He's got down in his skills and endorsements, leadership, forecasting, and pharmaceutical industry. You can rearrange the topics that you want. Rather than leadership, you might have something in terms of operations or forecasting. But you have more in terms of a look at that. You've got different ones there: healthcare, strategic planning, product launch, or some of the other categories that he has in his profile. Questions at this point?
No, I've got a little bit of work to do. Thank you for pointing some of those things out. And
let's try another one, Jeff.
I'll send you an email to see if I can get a copy of your presentation.
Okay, I'll be happy. And when I respond to anybody that's looking for the presentation, it's just going to say enclosed, and it'll be the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
Anybody that's interested, I'll be happy to send to them. It's lockealderson@gmail.com.
All right. Anybody else want to either ask a question or have us look at your profile? Mark Harris, do I see you want to have your name up there? Let's take a look at, yes, Mark Harris. So
Okay. I only came up with 14,000 Mark Harris's. So which one am I looking at?
give us a little detail, Mark. You can unmute yourself if you want so we can hear you. Mark-H- okay, he's got a whole bunch of numbers here. So
Okay, he has not customized his profile then. His URL.
Harris, so let's see here. Let me go
What
find it.
Background, Mark. There's a CEO of virtual surveillance. There's a QC tech, an attorney.
/N/Mark-6.
When I put a filter on, there's a Mark Harris at virtual surveillance, an attorney, systems engineer at Rockwell, client services manager, web developer.
Yeah, it says let me see here. I need to get the chat up. Chat.
It says his profile is not available.
Oh dear.
Hello, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, I was with ITW, Miller Electric. commercial district manager was my previous title.
Okay,
Yeah,
And-
Mark, let me just tell you this, that, the link that you gave me, this is what comes up, that your profile is not available. So you either have it
That
hidden.
is not good.
No, that is not good. So,
need to
Oh,
go into your
wow.
privacy settings and make your profile available to people. So when you,
Well, actually, I have it available to recruiters only. That must be what is going on. Give me just a second. I'm logging it on as we're speaking.
okay, well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna go and look at another one and then you can, we'll pop you back
Sure.
on, okay? So here's another
Okay,
one
thank you.
here. And let's see here. Kia, is this correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so Locke, can you just see what I'm sharing, or you can call this one up if you'd like?
I'm having trouble bringing Kia up, Jeff.
Okay, well, if you just want to look, just
Spell the name
look,
for me.
yeah, excuse me?
Spell the name for me.
Okay, Keya, last name Tollossa.
I'm sorry, again, the last name, Keya.
Tollossa.
Keollssa.
Yeah, Kia is the first name, Keya,
Okay,
and the last name is Tollossa.
I don't get that one. So spell the last name again for me, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Well, can you just view my presentation? Rotate through and get so you can see the presentation.